Hello everyone, welcome to my Flosstube channel. My name is Jessie Lee and I'm coming at you with video number 14. I am looking pretty cruddy today because I am just having a mundane weekend and I did not feel like doing any prepping for this video. In fact, my boulder holder is even showing. Whoops, wow. You know, someday when I'm older, I'll stop calling it a boulder holder and call it a flapjack sack instead. I'm in rare form today, you guys. My crappy, stained old shirt that I'm wearing today perfectly sums up my attitude towards life at the moment because it says, "She believed she could, but she was really tired, so she didn't." Yeah, I'm just coming off a really clunky week because we've just reached that point in the summer where it's gotta end and the kids need their butts back in school. We are just ready. And speaking of the kids' school, our district just announced that masks will be required for all students and staff, anyone who comes to the school grounds, which is cool. So I went and bought some new fabric so I could sew Glenn and Sylvia a fresh batch of masks because the ones we have are also ones that I sewed a long time ago and they're showing their age. So some nice new ones were in order. And I found this really neato fabric. It's got all these speckles and it comes in all sorts of different background colors. So it shall match everything in the kids' wardrobe. So I'll be sewing a bunch of reversible masks with this. And that'll be fun. And another reason I enjoy this fabric is because I think the speckles sort of remind me of a petri dish, which I just find to be a damn decent metaphor. I will move straight into talking about stitchy stuff now because the only really cool thing that I've done since I last talked to you was go shopping at Stitchville for the first time. Stitchville is an amazing needlework shop that I have heard so many Flosstubers rave about, and it's right over in Minnetonka, Minnesota, which is about a 30-minute drive from where I live. And I've been wanting to go there so bad, but I have to go across St. Paul and Minneapolis to get there, which was really intimidating. So it kind of got put off for a while, but I really needed to kit up my royal audience pattern that I will be using for my cat sal that I'll start hosting on Instagram in September. And I decided the time was right to go check out Stitchville so I could get the perfect threads and fabric for that project. And I am so happy I went. I had an absolute blast looking at everything, and it just opened my eyes to how interesting and cool that this hobby can be. There was just so much there that I didn't even know was a thing for cross stitch, and it really put in perspective how plebeian all of my stitching has been because most of what I buy is from the chain craft stores. And I feel really inspired and I have so many ideas or projects I would like to do in the future. Even though I loved exploring the store, I ended up coming home with a really dinky little haul. And I think it's just because it was kind of overwhelming seeing everything there for the first time, and that just kind of made it hard to pick out what I really wanted to buy. I'm sure the next time I go to Stitchville, which I hope will be very soon, everything will have percolated a little bit more and I will have an easier time splurging and buying things and coming back with fun things to show you in another video. But for now, I got started kitting my royal audience pattern. And that pattern looks like this. This is Life with Cats Royal Audience by The Blue Flower. This is a PDF that I've had in my stash for some time now, and I'm excited to start it for the cat themed sal that I'm hosting on Instagram in September. And the hashtag for that will be Sal All the Kitties. So if you have a whip or a new pattern you'd like to start that has a cat on it somewhere, any kind of cat, even a lion or a tiger, I hope you join me in September and show me your progress on Instagram. That will be awesome. I've already had a couple stitchy buddies tell me their plans for joining in the sal. it's going to be really fun. But anyway, this pattern that I'm doing calls for a bunch of Classic Colorworks and Weeks Dye Works threads. And I really enjoyed getting to see the called for threads in person at Stitchville, but I ultimately ended up picking out my own threads and choosing a different color scheme. And I found some pretty fabric for them too. And here it all is. Now it looks much richer and toastier in person. Sadly, it's just washed out on my camera, but I'm going to have a grumpy ginger cat on a blue wing chair, and then the outline for both the cat and then the piping on the chair will be this beautiful white color. And this white is Shabby Sheep by Classic Colorworks. The kitty will be in Colonial Copper, and then the chair is Old Blue Jeans. And then this fabric is R&R Reproductions Winter's Brew 40 count linen, and it is toastier in real life. It's really pretty. And I chose to try linen again. The only other thing I've stitched on linen was my Bygone cat back there, and that was Belfast, and it just felt very glossy and slippery to me, and I had a hard time with it. But this R&R has sort of a rougher texture, and it's not as floppy, so I think it will have some nice friction and just be easier to work with. So I'm going to try linen again, and this will be my first time stitching on 40 count. Luckily, the pattern is pretty modest in size, so if it is quite a challenge, it's something that I can overcome, I think. I did only choose 3 of these flosses because the rest of the details on the piece are really small, and I didn't think they really needed a variegated fancy floss, so I will just be picking out the colors for the text and the cat's facial features and the legs of the chair from my set of DMC colors. So I have that kitted up and ready to go. Just gotta pick out my DMC for the smaller details. I'm excited about that. And then I did find one little extra at Stitchville that I was so excited for, and it is this pattern. High Hopes by Just Nan. Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy has this as one of her whips. Let's see if I can show it to you without the glare. It says, "High hopes grow here," and I've always loved this pattern because of the tortoiseshell kitty cat, who reminds me of my Calypso, my very special old elderly kitty by now, who's been with me since my very first apartment when I moved out of my parents' house as a young adult. So, and I was so excited to find this OG pattern with the charm and everything, because it's a little trickier to buy on the internet. So I was so happy to see it at Stitchville, and I grabbed it. So that was my Stitchville haul. It was a lovely adventure traveling down there and then exploring the incredible store, and I cannot wait to go back. I also have a tiny bit of Etsy haul to show you too, starting with this green Threadworks floss. I bought this from AncoraCrafts on Etsy, and I just highly recommend their shop because they have the best pictures of the threads that they sell. If you find yourself having to buy embroidery floss off the internet, I would start at AncoraCrafts because the photos that they have of their embroidery flosses are truly helpful, and you can feel confident choosing something off the internet and that it will come home to you looking like what you saw on their site. So this is Threadworks 1064 Peat Moss, and it's again washed out by my phone, but it's a really just rich, sort of muted looking variegated green that goes from mint to a bit of olive. It's really nice. And I bought this to possibly use on my Quaker piece sampler by remembering bygone stitches. It looks like this right here. And in my last video, I was talking about how I was questioning my decision to stitch the entire sampler in this floss right here. This is 1078 Pastel Bouquet by Threadworks. And I thought this floss was beautiful enough and interesting enough to just cover the entire piece. But when I got started, I started to question my decision to omit the foreground color that forms that really cool peace sign across the entire sampler. So I decided green would be the color I may want for that foreground color. So I ordered this. And once it got here, I fell in love with it because this is how it looks next to the variegated or the pastel bouquet. They're just a perfect match together. They look so great. This green looks like it was just pulled out of the greens that are in this floss, and I just think that's really beautiful, and I just love how this looks by itself. So I'm happy to use it as the second color in my Quaker pattern. Seeing all of this together in person really made the decision easy for me. I am going to stitch both colors on the sampler, and I'm just excited and feeling more confident about that project now. The other little piece of haul I have from Etsy is a pin that I turned into a needle minder for myself. And here it is. It is this adorable little possum hanging on a branch. Possums are one of my very favorite animals, so I just had to have this little guy. I just think possums are so important. They're just good little nature helpers. They do so much for their ecosystem, and I just think it's neat that they're nocturnal and the females are pretty good mamas. So anyway, I just care about possums, and this guy was just too cute. He came from an Etsy called GabbyKashArt, and I actually follow that artist on Instagram. Her Instagram is Pink Gabbercat. A lot of her art is illustrations of cartoony cats that are really cute. So I really enjoy her art, and I'm so happy to have a pin of hers that's now a needle minder for me. Okay, now I will show you how my whips are doing, beginning with My Temperature Garden by Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy, which I'm stitching up in all my own colors. And all the yellow you see here just means it's been hot as hell this entire summer. In fact, we have had so much heat and drought that there are now wildfires burning in northern Minnesota, which is not normal at all and is pretty disturbing. But anyway, while I was stitching this, I think since I last showed it to you, I put in these two flowers here. This one on the end has 6 petals, and that was fun to stitch. Most of the flowers in this piece, as you can see, have 5 petals on them. So it's kind of refreshing to stitch a 6-petal flower sometime during those 31-day months. And I just recently got to do that one. And this one here was a bit frustrating because I had to stitch it twice. I made the mistake of attempting to stitch during the day while my kids were awake. I usually never stitch during the day when I'm with them. I wait until after their bedtime, just because they need my attention all day during the day, and it's just too distracting. Also, my son, Glenn, he's 7 years old. He's autistic, so he just needs a bit more supervision than other kids his age. He's very sensory seeking, and he can get into mischief pretty quickly if I don't keep my eye on him at all times. But at one point this week, I had them both here in this room with me. They were chilling, watching videos on their tablets, and I thought I could maybe sneak in a flower, and I started on this, and then the kids started getting rambunctious, and what I did was accidentally make the length of the stem 2 squares too tall. And I didn't notice it until I had stitched in the entire flower and noticed that is a really tall flower. That is funky. What happened here? So I ended up having to rip the whole thing out and start again, which was frustrating and just taught me a lesson that I will get the most joy out of my stitching and probably the most meaningful progress out of it if I only do it when my kids are not around. So even though I'm a stay-at-home mom, I don't quite get as much stitching progress as you might think I would, or as much as I wish I would anyway, because I don't do it until the end of the day when the kids are in bed and I'm feeling a bit tired myself. But it is what it is. I love my kids and I love spending my daytime with them, just being their mom and having a really good family life. I enjoy them very much. They're both super cute and they're both really good kids. They have great temperaments and I just feel blessed that the son and daughter I have are the ones God gave to me and they're mine. Anyway, the next whip I have to show you is probably way more exciting since you don't see it in every single video. And that is my Birthstone Girls. My Birthstone Girls are based off these charts by Soda Stitch, Birthstones 1 and Birthstones 2. And what I've done is taken parts of various girls in these patterns and Frankenstein them together to create my own Birthstone Girls that resemble my grandma, my mom, myself, and my daughter. Itchy nose, sorry. And I am stitching each lady on my whip during the month of her birth. And August is my grandma's birthday month, so I have added her to my piece. And this is what I have of her so far. Stitching her is really a breeze because the girl I created doesn't deviate from the original pattern too much. All I did was, here I'll show you on my very rough sketch that I did for my own pattern. But I just took the head of one girl because I liked the hairdo the best and put it on the body of another because I liked the dress and the stone of that body. And because I was only sticking together parts of two girls, I had very little that I had to color in on my own little sketch here. For example, my daughter Sylvia's pattern, heads from one girl, stones from another, dresses from another girl, and her legs are from another girl. And then I flipped the entire thing over horizontally after I pieced them all together. So since this is so different from the original pattern, it was best for me to just color her in all the way on my graph paper because that would be easiest for me to follow as I'm stitching. For my grandma, I can pretty much just look at these to know where to stitch in the colors. The only thing that I really changed was the shape of the stone so it wouldn't overlap with her hair, so I colored in the stone just a little bit. And then I was able to get the show on the road and start stitching her, which was really nice. So, looking at the original pattern is just easier than looking at my very rough pencil drawings with colored pencil colors in there. So I was able to stitch her a little quicker, but unfortunately I just lost some of my progress because I had to frog all of her hair. The first time I did her hair, I just wasn't happy with how the colors were looking. The original shades of brown I chose did not have enough contrast between them, so I just lost a lot of the detail of the curly hair. So I took it all out and substituted one of the shades of brown and then placed the other shades of brown in different sections, and it's turned out like this, and I'm much happier with it. My grandma had brown curly hair naturally when she was a young lady. By the time I came around, she was dyeing her hair blonde, but none of us inherited her brown hair. You can see my mom is a blondie with straight hair. My daughter has wavy hair, but she's also a blondie. I'm a blondie with straight hair too, so it was just kind of sentimental to me to stitch my grandma finally because she looks different than the other girls that I've stitched so far. She has a pretty pink dress and her stone is a topaz or peridot. Her birthstone is a topaz. It's going to be this pretty pear-shaped cut stone here, so I'm excited to put the greens in. It'll all look very pretty together. And, oh, by the way, I am stitching this on 25 count white opalescent Lugana. See all the sparkles in there? I thought that was appropriate to go with all the beautiful shiny gems that these girls are holding. So I'm happy with how this whip is turning out so far. I'm excited to finish up my grandma, and then I will go right here in this section when October rolls around, because my birthday is in October. And I'm just really happy stitching my grandma and remembering her because she was very, very special to me. As I've been stitching my grandma and thinking of her, I've realized that I desperately need to make some space in my life for practicing the piano again and regaining some skill to play it. I actually inherited my grandma's piano. It's precious to me. It lives in my living room, but unfortunately it goes mostly untouched just because I took piano lessons as a kid and was never that great, and then eventually moved on to playing the saxophone primarily. I played violin for a while in there too, but my grandma was a wonderful piano player. She was passionate about music. She was the pianist and organist for her church. My mom and uncle are both musicians as well, and my mom and I lived with my grandma from the time I was born until I was 7 years old. And I just remember listening to them playing piano, and my mom played French horn as well, just all day long, all the time. I just grew up basking in live music. It was awesome. And when my mom and I moved out on our own, one of the first pieces of furniture that my mom bought for our new place was her own piano. So she continued to play. I eventually learned to play. We would always sing duets together, and then later I'd play like my violin with her and my saxophone. And music was such an integral part of my childhood. I come from a very musical family, but unfortunately, in adulthood, that part of myself really fell by the wayside. And I feel really sad that my own kids aren't growing up immersed in music the way I was. And I would really love to bring that back. And I could bring that back by playing the saxophone. I was pretty good at sax, and I think that would be probably the easiest for me to pick up again. But actually, playing my grandma's piano just would feel the most special to me. And I think that would be a good starting instrument for my kids to learn if they were to get into music too. So I think I'm going to start practicing playing again. And I think practicing the piano with my kids in the room during the day is definitely something that's doable, at least way more doable than having to concentrate on my cross stitch. So I think that is a meaningful hobby that I will be bringing back into my life very soon. Since I'm talking about my grandma and my mom both instilling their love of music in me, I would love to read from you guys in the comments about special skills or hobbies that you've learned from your loved ones. I think that would just be really sweet to get to know about you all. So let me know, leave me a comment talking about, something special that you learned from somebody that you love very much. And I do have one last whip to show, and that is my Spring Cat Sampler by Nancy Rossi. I am so happy with how this is turning out, and I'm excited because I'm beginning to see an end in sight. I have been working on this middle section right here, and the last time I showed it to you, I had all the crosses done for the cat, the stems and leaves, this big middle iris, and these two tulips. And there was no back stitch except for the kitty cat's face, which I put in just so he wouldn't look really scary. So, since I showed this to you, I put in the rest of the flowers, the little violets, these two sneaky tulips, and the other irises. And then I backstitched all of the flowers. And also I put in the teeny little butterfly right there. Absolutely precious. I was so happy to add that little guy. And I just think it's really interesting how the smallest details can just add the most. That little tiny butterfly just adds such character to this section of the piece. I love it. So anyway, so next I have to do the back stitch on the stems and leaves, which is gonna be tedious, but I will plow through. I am determined. And then I gotta add the outline to the cat too. And then I can move on to the bird feeder at the top of the piece. Here is what the pattern looks like as a whole. So you can see I don't have too much farther to go. And I did take a peek at the top sections of the pattern, and they seem like they're slightly less detailed and tedious than the rest of it all that I've already done has been. So I'm just really excited because, like I said, I see an end in sight. I've been working on the sampler so much for so long, and I'm just proud of all the work I've done, and I will be so just happy to see it complete. And then I will be excited to move on to the next seasonal cat sampler. I will do either fall or winter. I haven't decided which one yet though. Probably fall is what I'm leaning towards. And that looks like this. Here's the fall cat sampler. Might as well show you what the heck. Or the winter cat sampler. I want to work on one of those two during the colder months of the year. Hopefully I will finish up spring in time to do a cold cat sampler while there's some snow on the ground. And just for the heck of it, I'll show you the summer cat sampler too. I plan on doing all of these and having them all hanging up in my stairwell. That's all I have to share with you today. Before I go, I just want to share with you the motto of my grandma, who inspired me both in stitching and music and in life. God loves you and I love you. Happy stitching! Bye!